Hello dear students. So in the last class we have discussed about the identity theorem. So every polynomial of nth degree has exactly n roots. But say if it has more than n roots, it means it becomes an identity. That is, the polynomial is equal to 0 for every value of x now. Right? Before we said that a polynomial of nth degree is 0 for only n values of x, exactly n values of x. But for instance, if it becomes 0 for more than n values of x, that means it will be 0 for every value of x, and it is possible when all the individual coefficients are equal to 0. And we have also studied in the earlier classes what are factor theorem, what are remainder theorem, and we have also tried to solve for the zeros of the polynomial, right? We have tried to find the roots of the polynomial equation. So I hope that you are able to understand all those things which we have discussed. So I am trying to move a little bit slow in the beginning, so try so that you can adjust, you can get comfortable with the things, and by chance if you have any doubt anywhere, then feel free to ask me. So today let us discuss about a periodic function. So what is a periodic function means? If a function satisfies f of x plus t is equal to f of x for all x belongs to R, then it is called periodic function. Then it is called periodic function with period t. Periodic function with period t. So periodic function means what? It repeats its values after certain time interval. That is, after every t length it will repeat its values, right? For example, if f of 1 is equal to say 5, then f of 1 plus t is what? F of 1 only, by the definition of periodic function. That is also 5. And f of 1 plus t, this is f of 1 plus t, this is f of 1, that is also 5, right? So f of x plus t is equal to f of x. So f of 1 plus 2t is 5, similarly f of 1 plus 3t is 5, and so on. So after every t length the value of the function is same, that is 5, after every t length, right? So if a function repeats its values after certain time interval, that is after t, then the function is said to be periodic function, and t is called the period of the function, right? So this is the meaning of periodic function. Now why I am explaining about periodic function is because I have to use it in a property of polynomials, and the property is that the only periodic polynomial function is constant function. It means what? That if f of x is a polynomial and it is periodic, it means that it is constant, right? So for example, if I take f of x is equal to 2, this is my polynomial, right? This is a polynomial of degree 0. So definitely it is periodic, right? You can tell that f of x plus 1, I mean it is 2 for any value of x. So f of x plus t is 2 for all x belongs to R. You can tell it, right? So a constant function is definitely a periodic function, but we are trying to prove that every polynomial function which is periodic has to be constant. There can't be any other polynomial function which is periodic, right? So let us try to prove this statement. So what I am saying is, say f is a polynomial function with period t. So it means what? F of x plus t is equal to f of x for all x, right? Now let us say f of 0 is some constant c, right? If you put x is equal to 0 in a polynomial, let us say you are getting a value c. So it means what? F of t is equal to c, f of 2t is equal to c, and so on. Everything is equal to c. right? So f of 0 is equal to f of t is equal to f of 2t is equal to so on. All this is equal to c. So there are infinitely many values for which the function value is equal to c. And we have said that if f of x equal to g of x for more than n plus 1 values, then this is an identity, right? That is fx and gx are equal for all values of x. This is what we have discussed as a corollary after we have discussed the identity theorem. So now you can see that here you can see that the function f of x is equal to c for infinite values of x, right? F of 0 is c, f of t is c, f of 2t is c, and so on. So it means what? F of x must be c for all x, right? If f of x equal to c for more than n plus 1 values, then we can say clearly that f of x is c for every x belongs to R. That is what we have discussed in previous class. Now here it is c for infinite values. So I can definitely say that this is equal to c for all x belongs to R. So finally we have that f of x is equal to c for all x belongs to R. It means the polynomial function has to be constant function. So the only periodic polynomial function is a constant function. Or let us say constant polynomial function. So I think that this theorem is clear to you. Now let us solve one example. Say p of x, it is a very nice question. So try to observe this very carefully. P of x is a polynomial such that x into p of x minus 1 is equal to x minus 4 into p of x for all x belongs to R. You need to find all such polynomials p of x. Find all such polynomial functions p of x. So this question you can solve along with me. You can observe what I am doing. So you see that it is given p of x is a polynomial such that x into p of x minus 1 is x minus 4 into p of x for every x belongs to R. So this is a functional equation. You can say that this is an equation which is satisfied by a polynomial p of x for every x belongs to R. So we need to find all such polynomials p of x which satisfies the given equation. So you see x into p of x minus 1 is equal to x minus 4 into p of x, isn't it? So what I am doing is I am just putting x is equal to 0. So if I put x is equals to 0, let us call this as equation 1. So put x is equal to 0 in equation 1, then you would get 0 is equal to p of 0, right? 0 minus 4 is minus 4 into p of 0. So you will get 0 is equal to p of 0. Next, put x is equal to 1 in equation 1. So left hand side will be 1 into p of 0 is equal to 1 minus 4 minus 3 into p of 0. Sorry, minus 3 into p of 1, right? We have put x is equal to 1. I mean, you can put any value of x because this is true for every value of x. So you can put any value of x, this will be true. So I can say that p of 0 is 0 is minus 3 into p of 1. So this means that p of 1 is also 0. Fine. Now let us put x is equal to 2 in equation 1. So this will give you 2 into p of 1 is equal to minus 2 into p of 2. So this will give you p of 2 as 0 because p of 1 is also 0. Now you put x is equal to 3 in equation 1. So if you put x is equal to 3 here in this equation, you will get 3 into p of 2 is equal to minus 1 into p of 4. So this will give p of 4 is also 0. So you have p of 4 also equal to 0. Now if you put x is equal to 4 in equation 1, then you will get 4 into p of 3 is equal to 0 into p of 4, right? So simply you will get 0 is equal to 0. Just a second, I think we have made a mistake here. If I put x is equal to 3 in equation 1, if I put x is equal to 3 here, I'll get 3 into p of 2 is equal to minus 1 into p of 3, right? I have written p of 4. Yeah, so that was a mistake. So now you will get p of 3 as also equal to 0 because p of 2 is 0. But now if you put x is equal to 4 here in equation 1, then you will get 4 into p of 3 is equal to 0. 4 into p of 3 is equal to 0 into p of 4. So p of 3 is already 0, so you will get 0 is equal to 0, so it is of no use, right? So what we can say that p of 0 is 0, p of 1 is 0, p of 2 is 0 and p of 3 is 0. So I can say that p of 0 is equal to p of 1 is equal to p of 2 is equal to p of 3 is equal to 0. So this means what? X minus 1, x minus 2, x minus 3 are factors of p of x by factor theorem, right? If p of 2 is 0, it means x minus 2 is a factor. So this means I can write p of x as x into x minus 1 into x minus 2 into x minus 3, right? So x minus 1, x minus 2, x minus 3 are definitely factors of p of x, but p of x is not of degree 4, right? It is not given that p of x is a degree 4 polynomial. And so if you divide with this, if you divide p of x with x minus 1, x minus 2, x minus 3, you might get some quotient q of x, right? You might get some quotient q of x. So now you see what I am doing is, in this equation I am replacing x. Okay, I am just replacing x with x minus 1 in this equation, right? So let us call this equation 2. So replace x with x minus 1 in equation 2. So what will I get? P of x minus 1 is equal to x minus 1, x minus 2, x minus 3, x minus 4 into q of x minus 1, isn't it? And we know that x into p of x minus 1 is x minus 4 into p of x. So now you see, since x into p of x minus 1 is equal to x minus 4 into p of x, right? This was the given equation. This is equation 1. So x into p of x minus 1, I am putting this value. So x minus 1, x minus 2, x minus 3 into q of x minus 1. This is equal to x minus 4 into p of x. I am putting this value. x minus 1, x minus 2, x minus 3 into q of x, right? So we have this thing for all x belongs to R, right? This is true for all x belongs to R. Fine, because this was true for all x belongs to R, and this is also true for all x belongs to R. So this is also true for all x belongs to R. So now I can just cancel all these things. X minus 1, x minus 2, x minus 3 gets cancelled. So I think we have missed here x minus 4 also, right? P of x minus 1 is x minus 1, x minus 2, x minus 3 and x minus 4. So this x minus 4 gets cancelled. So all these things gets cancelled, and you are left with q of x minus 1 is equal to q of x for all x belongs to R, right? It means what? Q of x is periodic function, right? It means q of x is periodic because it repeats its values, right? You can say that q of x minus 1 is q of x. From this I can say that q of x is q of x plus 1, right? If you replace x with x plus 1, you will get q of x is q of x plus 1 for all x belongs to R. It means q of x is a periodic function with period 1, and we know that q of x is a polynomial because this is the quotient. So the only polynomial function which is periodic is a constant function. So q of x has to be a constant function for all x belongs to R. So finally let us put the value of q of x in this second equation. So from equation 2 we will get p of x is c into x minus 1 into x minus 2 into x minus 3. So these are the polynomial functions which satisfies the given equation. X into p of x minus 1 is x minus 4 into p of x for all x belongs to R. You can take any value of c here, right? C can be anything. So this is our required solution. So I think this is very clear to you. So this is the application of the theorem which we have learned previously, right? That the only periodic function which is a polynomial is constant function, right? So let me just quickly repeat it again for you. So it was given that x into p of x minus 1 is x minus 4 into p of x. I put x is equal to 0, I will get 0 here. 0 is p of 0. Similarly, I got x is equal to 1, I got p of 1 0, p of 2 0 and p of 3 also 0. So since p of 0, p of 1, p of 2, p of 3 is 0, it means x, x minus 1, x minus 2, x minus 3 are factors of p of x by factor theorem. So I wrote p of x as x, x minus 1, x minus 2, x minus 3 into some polynomial q of x, right? This is the meaning of factors. So then I just replaced x with x minus 1, I got p of x minus 1 as this thing. And finally I used the given equation. X into p of x minus 1 is x minus 4 into p of x. So when I use this, all the terms got cancelled and I got q of x minus 1 as q of x for all x belongs to R. So finally I can say that q of x is a constant function. So I got p of x as c into x minus 1 into x minus 2 into x minus 3. Fine. So let us move on now. So now our aim is to find the roots of any polynomial equation. Our aim is to find the roots of polynomial equation f of x is equal to 0. So whenever I tell equation, I will tell roots. Whenever I tell simply polynomial, it means I will tell zeros, right? So I think you know the difference between zeros and roots, right? So our aim is to find the roots of a polynomial equation f of x is equal to 0, right? Because see, if you know the roots of a polynomial, you know everything about a polynomial. For example, if I take a linear polynomial x plus 2, right, if f of x is x plus 2, then clearly root of f of x is equal to 0 is nothing but is minus 2, right? Root of f of x equal to 0 is minus 2. So you can easily solve linear equations and you can also solve quadratic equations also. We know the formula to solve quadratic equation. We can either solve by factorization or by using the formula minus b plus minus root b square minus 4ac by 2a, right? If x square minus 5x plus 6 is equal to 0, then I know how to solve it. X is equal to 2 and 3 will be the roots. If I give you x square minus say 10x plus 21 is equal to 0, then you can solve it. You will get x is equal to 7 and 3. And if I give you any quadratic equation, you can find its roots. So you can find the roots of any quadratic equation, right? You can find the roots of any quadratic equation by using the formula, right? What is the formula? So ax square plus bx plus c is equal to 0. This means that x is equal to minus b plus minus square root of b square minus 4ac by 2a. So for linear equation you can solve it, quadratic equations also you can solve it, but when it comes to cubic equations, it is not very easy to solve, right? So it is not so easy to solve equations of degree greater than 2, right? That is cubic, biquadratic, fifth degree equations. It is not so easy to solve those equations, right? And See, while there are methods to solve cubic and biquadratic equations, there are actually some methods, but I mean those methods are beyond our scope. We are not going to learn those methods. But in some questions, right, some of the cubic equations, some of the biquadratic equations can be solved by using some hit and trial methods, or there might be some trick in those questions. So we are going to learn to solve those type of equations which we can solve by some tricks or some given data, or let us say some hit and trial, right? So we will be solving those cubic and biquadratic equations, right? And actually there are methods by which you can solve any cubic equation, any biquadratic equation, but we will not learn those methods. And in fact, if you try to solve any fifth degree equation, there is not developed any method, right? So there is no method to solve equations of degree greater than 4. And so yes, so if there are equations of degree greater than 4, then even we cannot solve it, no matter how much time we are given. But yes, you can solve cubic and biquadratic equations, and we are just going to see how to solve cubic and biquadratic equations using some tricks by hit and trial method, or some observations, some tricks will be working on those problems, right? So why I am saying that the roots of a polynomial equation are very important is that if you know the roots, if you know the roots of polynomial equation f of x is equal to 0, I mean then you know everything about the polynomial. Then you can completely know the polynomial. Then you know the polynomial completely. So I mean this is the most, I mean you can say the fundamental structure of any polynomial. So the fundamental structure of any polynomial is its roots. Like say the fundamental structure of our body are cells, right? That is the smallest unit of our body. Similarly, the fundamental structure of any polynomial are its roots. Because see, if I give you a polynomial, now for example, if I give you a polynomial 2x cubed plus 5x square minus 7x plus 2, now this is not so useful to me. Okay, it is useful, no doubt. I can find the value of f of 1, I can find f of 2 and so on. But if you ask me to find, if you ask me to find the values of x for which this polynomial is 0, then it is going to be difficult for me. Yes, but say instead of this, if I give you the roots of a polynomial, say if I give you roots of a cubic equation are say 1, 2 and 3, then it is very easy. Then you can say that f of x is x minus 1 into x minus 2 into x minus 3, and if I mention a leading coefficient, then you can take the leading coefficient as well, right? So now you see, you know everything about this function. If I just mention the roots I have just mentioned the roots of a cubic equation. Now you have got the cubic equation itself. So now you know everything about this cubic equation. You know when this cubic equation is 0, and you can find the value of the function at any value of x, right? If I ask you f of 4, then you can find k into 3 into 4 minus 2, 2 into 1. So you can find the value of the function at any point. Of course, k will be known if the leading coefficient is known. So that's why I am stressing on this point that the most important thing of a polynomial are its roots. If you can find the roots of a polynomial, then you know everything about that polynomial. So we will try to find the roots of a cubic equation by hit and trial method. So hit and trial method to find roots. Say if I give you find all the roots of say x cube minus 6x square plus 11x and minus 6 is equal to 0, right? So this is the question. You need to find all the roots of this cubic equation. So if this was a quadratic equation or linear equation, then you could have easily done this, but now this is a cubic equation. So how to do this? Yes. So let us try to solve this problem. So for hit and trial, we check some standard values of x, right? We check whether 1 is a root, whether minus 1 is a root. We check whether 2 is a root, minus 2 is a root. And first we check 0, 1, minus 1, 2, minus 2, 3, minus 3. And in some rare cases you might also have to check 1 by 2, minus 1 by 2, right? So if you want to solve a cubic equation, then one of these values will be root, definitely, right? You need to check with one of these values, 0 or plus minus 1, plus minus 2, plus minus 3, half and minus half. So you have to check with any of those values. Definitely one of the values will work in the question, right? So our given polynomial equation is f of x is equal to x cube minus 6x square plus 11x minus 6, right? This is our polynomial f of x. So see, f of 0 is clearly not equal to 0 because this is f of 0 is minus 6. Now let us check f of 1. Let us do hit and trial with f of 1. If you put x is equal to 1, you will get 1 minus 6 plus 11 minus 6. This will become 0. So now you see that f of 1 is 0. It means what? 1 is a root. 1 is a root of f of x equal to 0, right? So it means x minus 1 is a factor of f of x because f of 1 is 0 and 1 is a root, right? So now what will happen is that we have got one factor x minus 1, right? Now we can divide this f of x by x minus 1 to get another factor. So x cube minus 6x square plus 11x minus 6. Now if you divide this, so this will be x square, x cube minus x square minus plus, so you will get minus 5x square plus 11x minus 6, and this will be minus 5x square plus 5x plus minus, so this will be 6x minus 6, and you will get minus 1, 6x minus 6, and remainder will be 0. Remainder definitely has to be 0 because x minus 1 is a factor. If the remainder is not 0, it means you have done some calculation mistake. So see, finally you got x cube minus 6x square plus 11x minus 6 as x minus 1 into x square minus 5x plus 6. Okay, so this was plus 6, right? Yes, x minus 1 into 6 will get 6x minus 6. So x square minus 5x plus 6. Now you see, you have one factor x minus 1 and you have the quadratic factor. Now you know how to find the roots of a quadratic equation, right? So simply you can factorize this x minus 2 and x minus 3, right? So this is our given cubic equation that is factorized completely. So then x is equal to 1, 2, 3 are roots. X is equal to 1, 2, 3 are roots of x cube minus 6x square plus 11x minus 6 equal to 0. So this is the standard method of hit and trial. You check with any one of these values, 0, plus minus 1, plus minus 2, plus minus 3, half and minus half. If any one of these values is working, it means you can divide this polynomial with that linear factor and you will get a quadratic factor. And you already know how to solve a quadratic factor, right? You can directly use the formula or you can factorize it. So this is the way which you can solve a cubic equation. So let us do one more example. Solve. So just give me a minute. Let me make a question. So solve x cube minus, say, 9 times x square and plus say 23 times x and minus 15 is equal to 0. Yeah, so you need to solve this equation. Okay, so let us begin by hit and trial. So let us check 0. F of 0 is minus 15, so that is not 0. Let us check 1. F of 1 is 1 minus 9 plus 23 minus 15, so this is becoming 0, right? So it means what? X minus 1 is a factor of f of x. So now you see I can divide this f of x by x minus 1. So I am just telling you a shortcut to divide. So if you want to divide f of x by a linear factor, then this is a shortcut. So you can try to learn this shortcut. This will be very useful. X cube minus 9x square plus 23x minus 15, right? So see, how will we divide is, you write the coefficients 1, minus 9, 23 and minus 15. Let us say if you don't have x square coefficient, let us say if I give you x cube plus 23x minus 15, then you write 1, 0 and like that, right? So if any of the power of x is missing, then you include that coefficient as 0 in between. Fine. And now you need to divide with x minus 1. So here you take 1, right? If you want to divide with x minus 1, so you just equate x minus 1 to 0, you'll get x equal to 1. Now you just take a 0 here. This is a standard method. You take a 0. Now 1 plus 0 is 1. 1 into 1 is 1. Minus 9 plus 1. Now you just add minus 8. Minus 8 into 1, minus 8. 23 minus 8, 15. 15 ones are 15. So this is 0, right? So this method will work if and only if x minus 1 is a factor, right? If it is not a factor, then you can't use this method. So we know that f of 1 is 0, that is x minus 1 is a factor, so we can use this method. And now the quotient will be, so this is x square term, this is x term, this is constant term, right? So this is x square minus 8x plus 15, fine, this is the quotient. So finally we have x cube minus 9x square plus 23x minus 15 is equal to x minus 1 into x square minus 8x plus 15, right? You want to solve this equal to 0. So x equal to 1 and x square minus 8x plus 15 equal to 0. Now you can solve it. Minus 3 minus 5, so you can get x is equal to 3 and 5. So you have got all the three roots. 1, 3 and 5 are roots. Fine. So this is the method by which you can solve cubic equation, or similar is the process for biquadratic equation. You just do hit and trial and you just reduce it. Reduce it means you divide by a linear factor, then you reduce it to cubic. And for cubic you do again hit and trial, you divide by a linear factor, you reduce it to quadratic, and quadratic you can easily solve. So this is the method by which we can find the roots. But see, sometimes this, if hit and trial, sometimes this hit and trial method can be lengthy, or sometimes say if I give you that there are rational roots of a polynomial equation, then if you want to guess what are those rational roots, then there is a theorem called the rational root theorem. It is called the rational root theorem. So what it says is, if rational number p by q, where p comma q are integers, and GCD of p comma q is equal to 1. So this is very important. So any rational number you can reduce it to p by q such that GCD of p comma q is 1. Suppose you have 4 by 18, then you can reduce it to 2 by 9, right, by cancelling. So GCD of 2 and 9 is 1, right, but initially GCD of 4 and 18 is not 1. So any rational number can be reduced such that GCD of numerator and denominator is 1. So if a rational number p by q, where p and q are integers, and GCD of p and q is 1, is a root, if this rational number p by q is a root of the equation, so this is very important theorem which we are making, of the equation an x power n plus an minus 1 x power n minus 1 plus so on plus a1x plus a naught is equal to 0, where this an minus 1 and so on, a1 and a naught are integers. Fine. So this an minus 1, all the coefficients of the polynomial should be integers. This is the condition. And an is not equal to 0, of course, because if an is 0, then this will not be of degree n. Then the theorem says that P is a divisor of a naught, that is P divides a naught and Q divides an, So this is a very important statement which we are making. So if a rational number P by Q is root of this equation with integer coefficients, right, all the coefficients are integers, then P will divide a naught and Q will divide an. So let us try to prove this. So since P by Q, where GCD of P comma Q is 1, is a root, this means what? This should satisfy the equation, right? P by Q is a root of this equation. Say this is equation 1. So P by Q is a root of this equation 1. It means what? P by Q satisfies this equation, right? Every root of the equation satisfies this equation. So if I put P by Q in this equation, this will be 0 because P by Q is a root. So this means that an into P by Q whole power n plus an minus 1 into P by Q whole power n minus 1 plus so on plus a1 into P by Q plus a naught will be 0, right? So now you just multiply with Q power n. So here you will get an into P power n. I am multiplying with Q power n. So plus an minus 1 into P power n minus 1 into Q, right? In denominator you had Q power n minus 1. I am multiplied with Q power n. I got Q. Plus so on plus a1 into P into Q power n minus 1 plus a naught into Q power n is equal to 0. Fine. So what I am doing is I am just bringing all the terms to other side except this an. So an P power n is equal to, or let us take an to the other side. So an minus 1 P power n minus 1 into Q plus an minus 2 P power n minus 2 Q square plus so on a1 into P into Q power n minus 1 plus a naught into Q power n is equal to minus an into P power n. Now let us divide with Q. So an minus 1 into P power n minus 1. So if I divide with Q, this Q will get cancelled, right? So plus an minus 2 P power n minus 2 into Q and plus so on a1 into P into Q power n minus 2 plus a naught into Q power n minus 1 is equal to minus an into P power n by Q. So I have just divided with 2, divided by Q, right? Divide by Q. So now you see equation 2. If you see equation 2, this left hand side of equation 2 is integer, right? Because all the coefficients are integers and P and Q are also integers. So left hand side is integer. So LHS of equation 2 is integer, right? So this implies right hand side should also be integer. Right hand side should also be integer. So right hand side of equation 2 is also integer. This means what? Minus an into P power n by Q is integer, right? Now you see that GCD of P and Q is 1, right? So P power n and Q, and GCD of P and Q is 1. So it means nothing is common between P and Q. So you can't cancel anything with P and Q, right? So then only possible thing is Q should completely divide an, right? Q should be a factor of an. Otherwise it is not possible. This cannot be an integer. Because in between P and Q nothing is common. So you can't cancel anything. Any part of Q cannot be cancelled with P. Because GCD of P and Q is 1. So finally Q should also definitely be a factor of an. So this implies Q divides an. right? So q is definitely a factor of an. So, and we also need to prove that p divides a naught. We also need to prove that p divides a naught. So for that, what I am doing is, in this equation, if you see this equation, what I am doing is, I am taking this a naught q power n to other side. I am taking a naught q power n to other side. So I will get an into p power. This is my equation which I am using. Okay, let us call this as equation, say 3. So an into p power n plus an minus 1 p power n minus 1 q plus so on, plus this is a1 into p into q power n minus 1 is equal to minus a naught into q power n. This is equation 3, from equation 3. So now you just divide with p. So divide by p. So what will you get? An into p power n minus 1 plus an minus 1 into p power n minus 2 into q, and plus so on. Here you will have a1 into q power n minus 1 is equal to minus a naught q power n by p. And again the same thing, since GCD of q and p is 1, this p and q nothing will get cancelled, and LHS is integer. LHS is integer. This implies RHS is also integer. So RHS is integer means p is a factor of a naught, that is p divides a naught. So finally we have proved that if p by q is a root of an x power n plus an minus 1 x power n minus 1 plus so on plus a1x plus a naught, where an minus 1 and so on a1 comma a naught are integers, then this simply means that p is a factor of a naught and q is a factor of an, and here GCD of p and q must be 1, right? So this is the theorem which we have proved. So now what is the use of this theorem? We'll see, right? Let us see the usefulness of this theorem. Suppose if I give you, find the rational roots of 2x cube minus 3x square minus 11x plus 6 equal to 0. Suppose if I give you this question to find the rational roots of this equation. Now you see, you can do hit and trial, but now it is mentioned that you just need to find the rational roots, and we have also studied the rational root theorem, so let us use it. So let p by q, where p comma q are integers, and GCD of p comma q is equal to 1, is a rational root, right? So if p by q is a rational root, this means what? This simply means that p is a factor of 6 and q is a factor of 2, right? P divides constant and q divides 2. So this means p is plus minus 1 plus minus 2 plus minus 3, and this means q must be plus minus 1 plus minus 2. So p by q can be plus minus 1 or plus minus 1 by 2 or plus minus 2 or plus minus 3 or plus minus 3 by 2, right? So if you take different possible values of p by q, so if p is 1, q is 1, you will get 1. If p is 1, q is minus 1, you will get minus 1. If p is 2, q is 2, you will get 1. So that is already we have included. P is 2, q is 1, you will get 2. And p is minus 2, q is 1, you will get minus 2. Similarly, plus minus 3 by plus minus 1, you will get plus minus 3. Plus minus 3 by plus minus 2, you will get plus minus 3 by 2. So these are the possible values of p by q. So if p by q is a root, then p by q can be this only, right? So this is only possible. There is no other rational number which can be root of this equation, because every rational root should satisfy this condition and every rational root should be one of this. So this doesn't mean that all these are roots, right? This is just a possible set of values. So now if you just try to if you try to just check whether this 1 is a root, 1 by 2 is a root, 2 is a root, and so on. So then if you check 1, you will get f of 1 as 2 minus 3 minus 11 plus 6. So this is minus 1. So this is not 0, right? Now let us check minus 1. So minus 1 would be minus 2 plus minus 2 minus 3 plus 11 and plus 6. So this is also not 0, right? So I'm just checking all the values. You have to do this. This is a little bit lengthy, but you have to do. So I'm just rewriting this f of x. F of x is 2x cube minus 3x square minus 11x plus 6. So minus 11x plus 6. So I have checked with 1, I have checked with minus 1. Nobody is a root. Now if you check with 1 by 2, let us check 1 by 2. So you will get 2 into 1 by 2 whole cube minus 3 into 1 by 2 whole square minus 11 into 1 by 2 plus 6. And if you simplify, you will get this 0, right? And similarly, you can check this on your own. F of minus 1 by 2 will not be 0, and f of 2 will not be 0. F of minus 2 will be coming as 0, right? We are checking all these possible values. Similarly, f of 3 will be 0, f of minus 3 will not be 0, f of 3 by 2 will not be 0, f of minus 3 by 2 is also not 0. So the only roots are 1 by 2, 3 and minus 2. So therefore roots are 1 by 2, minus 2 and 3. So now see, cubic equation has 3 roots only. This equation has 3 roots only, and all the 3 roots we have got rational roots, right? So these are all the roots of this cubic equation. So this is how this rational root theorem will be helping. Fine. So let us see a corollary of this theorem, and that is called integer root theorem. And this is very simple only. What this says is that every rational root of x power n plus an minus 1 x power n minus 1 and plus so on plus a1x plus a naught, where an minus 1, an minus 2, a1, a naught are integers, right? So every rational root of this equation is an integer, and each of these roots is a divisor of a naught, So this is very clear, right? Here we have a polynomial equation whose leading coefficient is 1, right? So you can easily prove it. Say p by q is a root of this equation. So this means that p should divide a naught, q should divide 1, right? Q should divide an. So here an is 1, leading coefficient is 1, so q should divide 1. So it means q is plus minus 1 only. So then p by q is nothing but p by plus minus 1. So this is integer itself, right? So all the roots are integers, and they should divide a naught. So if you have a equation with integer coefficients whose leading coefficient is 1, then every rational root of this equation will become an integer root, because by the property that q should divide 1, so q can be plus minus 1. So every rational root will be an integer root, and it will be divisor of a naught. So let us do one question. So find the roots of the equation. X power 4 plus x cube minus 19x square minus 49x minus 30. So you see, this is a biquadratic equation, but I am giving hint that, this is a part of question only. So find the roots of this equation, given that it is given in the question that the roots are all rational numbers. Roots are all rational numbers. So all the roots of this equation are rational numbers. So this is given in the question. So let us use the property. So all the roots are rational and leading coefficient is 1, means all the roots are integers. This implies all the rational roots are now integers. All the rational roots are integers and they are divisors of minus 30, right? So what are divisors of minus 30? So divisors of minus 30 are plus minus 1, plus minus 2, plus minus 3, plus minus 5, plus minus 6, plus minus 10, plus minus 15 and plus minus 30. So the thing is, you need to check with all these values, and finally if you check with all these values, you will see that minus 1, minus 2, minus 3 and 5 are roots, right? You need to check with 1, with minus 1, with 2, minus 2, 3, minus 3, 5, minus 5, 6, minus 6, 10, minus 10, plus minus 15 and plus minus 30. You need to check all the values. You need to put in this equation, right, whether this equation is 0 or not. If this equation is 0, it means that is a root. So if you check all the values, you will get minus 1, minus 2, minus 3 and 5 are roots. So you just check this on your own, right? You check for all the values. Don't just leave it like this. You check all the values and you'll find that these are the roots. So these are all the 4 roots of this equation, right? So this is how the rational and the integer root theorem will help us. Let us do one more question. Solve x cube minus 3x square plus 5x minus 15 is equal to 0. So I need to solve this. So you see, now no hint is given in the question. So I am trying to find the rational root. So let us try to find rational root. I don't know whether rational root really exists or not. At this point, I don't even know that rational roots exist. I don't even know that rational roots exist for this equation. I'm just doing hit and trial, right? So I'm just doing hit and trial. I don't know whether rational roots are there or not there also, but I'm doing hit and trial. So but now we have studied rational root theorem, so we can do some hit and trial in a good way, right? Because root should be a factor of minus 15. Factor of minus 15 are plus minus 1, plus minus 2, plus minus 3 and plus minus 5, right? So these are the factors of minus 15. So if there is a rational root, then this should be one of these numbers, because the leading coefficient is 1, so rational root will be integer only. So let us check. F of x is our x cube minus 3x square plus 5x minus 15, right? So let us check with 1. F of 1 minus 3 plus 5 minus 15. So this is minus 2 plus 5, 3 minus 15 minus 12. So this is not 0. Let us check minus 1. So this is minus 1 minus 3 minus 5 minus 15. This is also not 0. Now let us check 2. So f of 2 is 2 cube 8 minus 3 into 2 square. So that is 12 plus 10 minus 15. So this is minus 4 plus 10, 6 minus 15 minus 9. So this is also not 0. Let us check with minus 2, minus 8, minus 12, minus 10, minus 15. So clearly this is also not 0. Let us check with 3. So 3 cube 27 minus 27 plus 15 minus 15. So this is coming out to be 0. It means what? 3 is a root. 3 is a root of f of x. Now you see, if you have a cubic equation and you get one root of a cubic equation, then you can easily reduce this into a quadratic, right? So let us not do hit and trial, because we have already got one root of a cubic. So x minus 3 is a factor of f of x is equal to, what is fx? X cube minus 3x square plus 5x minus 15. Now let us just divide this, right? So I am using the shortcut method for division. So if you equate x minus 3 to 0, you will get x equal to 3, and we'll write the coefficients here, 1, minus 3, 5 and minus 15. So and we'll take 0 here. This is the standard procedure up to here. Now 1 plus 0 is 1, 1 3s are, you will get 3. 3 minus 3 is 0, 0 into 3 is 0, 5 plus 0 is 5, right? And 5 into 3 is 15, and you will get 0 here. If you don't get 0, then your calculation is wrong, because the remainder, this represents the remainder actually, right? So you will have to get 0. So then the quotient is x square, and this is x term and this is constant, so quotient is x square plus 5. So finally our f of x, x cube minus 3x square plus 5x minus 15 is x minus 3 into x square plus 5. So if you want to find the roots, right, this is equal to 0. So x is equal to 3 and x square is equal to minus 5 means what? X is equal to plus minus iota into root 5. So these are 3 roots, 3 iota root 5 minus iota root 5. So you can see that 2 roots are complex, imaginary roots. See, and the complex roots are occurring in conjugate pair. Iota root 5 is root, minus iota root 5 is a root. Because the coefficients of given equation are all real numbers. So you can see here that complex numbers are occurring as conjugate pair. This is a theorem which we have studied, right? So this is how you can use the rational root and integer root theorem to guess the possible rational roots, right? This is just used to do guesswork. So what I am now doing is I am just going to end the session, but before ending I am just doing this shortcut method one more time, right? So that you will be comfortable with this. So say if I ask you to divide, so this is for linear only, right? Divisor must be linear. So divide, say, x power 4 minus 3x square plus, say, 5 x plus 2 by, say, x plus 2, right? If you want to divide this by x plus 2, so this is for linear divisors only, so our divisor is linear, so this shortcut will work. So if you equate x plus 2 to 0, you will get minus 2 here, right? X is equal to minus 2, and let us note down the coefficients. Coefficient of x power 4 is 1, x cube coefficient is not there, so you will take as 0, and then minus 3, and then 5, and then 2, everything is there, right? X cube is not there, so we took 0, x square is minus 3, x is 5, and constant term is 2. Now we will add 0, this is the standard procedure. So 1 plus 0 is 1, 1 into minus 2, minus 2, 0 plus minus 2 is minus 2, minus 2 into minus 2 is 4, 4 minus 3 is 1, 1 into minus 2 is minus 2, 5 minus 2 is 3, and 3 into minus 2 is minus 6, and 2 minus 6 is minus 4. Now you see, if you divide with x plus 2, the remainder will be constant only, right? Because the divisor is of 1 degree, so remainder must be a 0 degree, so remainder will be constant only. So here this last thing will represent remainder, so this is remainder, and this will represent quotient, this will represent quotient, right? So quotient will be, this is 1, right? So this is x cube minus 2x square plus, just a second, we are dividing x power 4th degree with x plus 2, right? Yes, yeah, so the quotient will be cubic, so this is x cube, this is x square, and this is x term, and this is constant, and the remainder will be minus 4, right? So if you divide x minus 1, if you divide this x power 4 minus 3x square plus 5x plus 2 by x plus 2, then quotient will be cubic degree, right? So you will get, this is x cube, this is x square quotient, this is x quotient, this is constant, and the last one will be remainder. Fine. So this is how you can divide by a linear divisor. This is the shortcut for this. So you can practice 3-4 questions on your own, and then you will be comfortable using this. So we can do very quickly with this, that's why this will be helpful so many times, right? So yes, we will end this session today, and I will send you the assignment in the group. So you just try to prove these theorems again, right? Try to solve all the problems again which we have done in class, and then you try to attempt the